What's going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make Charlotte Hornets content, so if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, as I knock my mic over, we're talking about the Mark Williams effect. And essentially what I mean by the Mark Williams effect is going to the G League and having that essentially let's just say upscale your game, refine your game, and then being able to then have that reflect into the NBA and come in high. I think Mark Williams came in high. Of course, he made, some rookie mistakes. What rookies just make mistakes. I'm not even tripping off that, but I think he played very well off the bat after coming into the G League. And I think he looked like a totally different player based on what we saw in last year's summer league. He looked very timid. He kind of didn't look like he knew what to do under the basket. But as soon as he came into the league, got to play with LaMelo just a little bit, we saw more and more of what the player that the Charlotte Hornets were seeing when they drafted him, I think 15th overall in last year's draft. So will that work on everybody? And the easy answer is no. The easy answer is that it won't work on everyone. James Bouknight has not really been able to use the G League to kind of catapult him into getting real minutes. I think he did get real minutes, but I just don't think the G League was a part of that. I think it was just him, one, I think the Hornets kind of needed him to step up. And then two, I think as though Steve Clifford believed in him, which there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't realize my mic was that high, but there's nothing wrong with Steve Clifford believing in James Bouknight. I just feel as though the G League didn't necessarily correlate with James Bouknight getting more minutes. Kai Jones, been always in the G League, it feels like, and it just he's getting better, just not at the rate you would think he would, considering he's getting constant minutes in the G League. Bryce McGowan, I think that it helped him a lot. He still, at least last year, did not come in guns blazing, but I feel as though he was making all the right basketball players. He wasn't as, I wouldn't even say efficient, but he wasn't as assertive as you would like him to be, and he was kind of too assertive this past summer league, and that's why I'm kind of just hesitant. I don't think that's really who he is. I think he was just playing that way because it is summer league, because they probably told someone to go out there and do rah-rah stuff. I feel as though he's more of what we saw last year in the league. And until he proves me otherwise, that's how I'm going to believe it. That's literally how he played when the time mattered the most. So I want to see if that continues over. I'm not going to use the summer league and say, oh, this is who he plays. This is how he plays now. I'm just not going to do that. But it did work for him. We saw that he didn't come in. He came in and just played basketball. I mean, he made mistakes. Rookie make mistakes. But, I mean, everybody makes mistakes, really, not just rookies. But he just wasn't as assertive, but he did always try to make the right basketball play, even though it was like, oh, you could have took that up, or oh, you should have shot that. He was always looking to make the right basketball play. It wasn't like he was doing anything crazy. He was trying to do, what he thought was right. I can completely respect that. The reason I say this is because we have specifically Nick Smith Jr. I'm not worried about Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller sucking, he's just going to have to suck. Like, he's just going to have to thug it out and keep playing. That's how the Hornets should handle that. And I wish they could do it with Nick Smith Jr., who that's kind of what who this video is about. But I just know that the reality of it is not going to be that way. But there's two reasons why I feel as though it could work by putting him in the G League and then seeing what he is once he's really, getting real minutes. And the first reason I think it could work is because I think they want him to play point guard, even though I've really seen him more as a shooting guard, and he came into college as a point guard, but then Anthony Black was just amazing as a point guard at Arkansas. So it kind of pushed Nick Smith Jr. off ball, who I think he's a really good off ball player, even though we see that he definitely likes the ball in his hand. I don't think he's that bad of an off ball player, and I think he can really create a career by being this electric scorer off ball. I think that allowing him to be in the G League and having him play the point guard and get more of the playmaking, because we see he can go one-on-one with anybody. I mean, it was summer league, but we see that he can go one-on-one with anybody. The shot sometimes just don't fall, but it's not like he's not getting himself open. It's not as though he's just struggling. Like, you could tell like the difference between the shot just not falling and someone struggling. It just seemed the shot just was not falling. I don't know what it was. It just maybe just wasn't his couple of days or a couple of games, whatever the case may be. But we saw that when he was hot, he was hot. So I'm not concerned as far as his scoring ability. Not really even too concerned about his defense. I need to see kind of everybody on that team, the summer league team, at least the important people, defense in a vacuum, because just all together in the summer league. And you know how I feel about how the Hornets approach summer league. It's really hard for me to place that on them. I'm not saying his defense is just locked down Patrick Beverly, Gary Payton, or whoever else guard, Marcus Smart, you want to add in there. I'm just saying that I think it is a little better than what we saw in summer league. I think that they really wanted to make him a point guard. And if you're going to do that, allow him to run point guard in the G League and also allow him to get his shots. I think that he isn't going to be a guy, that's what he wants to do. He wants to score. He wants to get his shots. You allow him in the summer league, but to also assimilate having the point guard duties with him as well, I think that can really mold him into a good combo guard. And that's really just all you're hoping for with Nick Smith Jr. So I'm very interested to see how, if the Mark Williams effect will play in that, because in this case with Mark Williams, you kind of just wanted him to just be more comfortable. I think that's really what it was. You saw all the skills there. You wanted him to be more comfortable. And we saw that the G League just got him more comfortable. For Nick Smith Jr., I feel as though you kind of see the skills are there, but I think you want to maybe see him be a little bit better of a playmaker, or just a little bit better as a floor general in some capacity, because you're seeing now with Terry Rozier, when he's asked to play make, he can do it, but it's on and off. And sometimes he does it very well, and sometimes he stinks at it. I don't think you want to run into that problem again, so it's best to handle that early now by getting Nick Smith Jr. the reps in the G League. So very interested to see in that. You are developing a new skill. So I think that he's going to need more time in the G League. But I would also, once again, there's nothing like real NBA minutes. With this team trying to fight for a playoff spot, I don't know where that comes in. But I will say, we see that he can score. I think he could probably do it against NBA caliber talent as well. I mean, Summer League very close to that. So I would like to see, if you do bring him up, don't try to force him to play point guard, or don't try to force him to be a floor general at least. Have a Gordon Hayward on the floor with him. I would even take a Terry Rozier. Miles Bridges even is a pretty good playmaker. Cody Martin is even a pretty good playmaker. Have him do what he did in college, and that is just score. Get open. You can get open. You can get open off ball. You can get open on the ball. But don't try to bring him in, have him try to be a point guard. He doesn't do that well at it, and then you bench him, and then we never see it. Don't do similar to almost what you did with James Bouknight. Even though at one point James Bouknight did have a chance, he just really couldn't capitalize on it. But it's also really hard to capitalize when the year before his string was his leash was just so short, and he really couldn't operate. I don't know. It was just weird. And I get it. He may not seem like he was ready. Maybe they saw the writing on the wall, but I do, as much as people like to blame James Bouknight, because Steve Clifford gave him a chance. Yes, but I do put some blame on the Charlotte Hornets on why James Bouknight didn't quite, I wouldn't say quite work out, because it's still early technically, but I put some blame on the Charlotte Hornets. The second thing I want to talk about, the second reason why I want to see if the Mark Williams effect will work with Nick Smith Jr. It's just the simple fact that not everybody learns that way. That's literally all it is. Not everybody is going to get the most out of playing lesser competition in the G League as opposed to just throwing them in the fire. Some people are throw them in the fire and they'll learn. Like for me, I don't talk about work much, but here we go. I'm a technical person. I like developing all that stuff. It's what I do. That's my job. I am not let's train you for 30 years and then throw you in there. I probably would know all the information in the world, the book smarts of it. However, you throw me in the fire, and obviously I need someone to, especially if it's a new concept or whatever, I need someone to kind of just, I wouldn't say hold my hand, but just watch. You throw me in the fire, I'm going to learn a lot more. I'm going to learn a lot of the nuances a lot quicker. I'm going to learn a lot of, okay, I shouldn't say things like that. I shouldn't do things like this. It's just all of that stuff I learn by doing. And doing that in the G League, or it's just not the same. For example, when you're developing, and I'm sorry to go on this tangent, but when you're developing, there's an environment that you have where, okay, in this environment, you can break stuff. That's the G League for the NBA. You can put up 30 shots a game because it's just the G League. And in there, I learned a lot of stuff. I learned a lot of the technical stuff. It's like, okay, I can't do this. The system won't let me do that. Okay, I shouldn't do this. But something about being in a live production where, okay, anything I do, everybody sees it. It affects everybody in the company. That does something to me as far as you just think a little harder, and it's a little less doing it. And I think it helps you grow more and more and more because you're way more cognizant of the actions you take. that is why, if I could relate that back to basketball, that is why I do understand why some players, they're just not going to learn by being in the G League, where they have the ultimate green light, where they can do whatever they want. Or even if you try to run your G League and like you run the real team, it's just not the same, especially with a team like the Charlotte Hornets. So I'm very interested. Like I said, it worked for Mark Williams, but Mark Williams to me was really just getting confidence, refining what he already does very well. It's not like he did something completely new in his time, once he became a starter. He just did what we always saw him do. That's it. And he did it well. It was just when he came into the summer league last year, it was just, he just didn't look confident. He just didn't look like he was up for the challenge. But you saw it. I mean, you saw the defense. You saw the impact he had on the floor. It wasn't that he couldn't make an impact on the floor. It was just, all right, can this translate? He looks a little timid. I like to view him a little more forceful. And the block on Trae Young was forceful. You know what I'm saying? Just stuff like that. So yeah, it was a different case scenario, different person. I even see, now that I know more about Mark Williams, just, interviews and just everything, seeing him play, it just made more sense. It makes a lot of sense why the G League worked for him. But someone like Nick Smith Jr., I don't know. I'm still out on that. I'm not sure, but let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I think the G League is a good tool. I think it's just got to be used properly. And I think if you're the Hornets or any other team in the league, you got to be okay with throwing someone in the G League and maybe they're not working, but you can't be like, oh, well, they just suck or whatever the case may be. Of course, teams don't say that, but you know what I'm saying? You can't just throw them in the G League and be like, oh, well, I don't know why they're not performing in the G League. That means they can't perform. No, sometimes it is just a matter of the production you're in, the environment you're in. I think being around the better players, being around LaMelo, being even Steve Clifford, I think is a phenomenal mental coach. I think his knowledge of the game is out of this world. Being around that will help you tremendously, as opposed to being in the G League where it's just kind of this science experiment. So let me know what you think about that. I'm really curious to see. Nick Smith Jr., I think he'll be fine either way. I'm just saying that I hope the Hornets don't try to force that and not be willing to accept, okay, we tried it. He's doing well. It's just we thought maybe he'll develop a little faster or whatever. We're just not going to throw him in games. No, throw him in some games. Throw him in some garbage time games. So, or maybe it might not even be garbage minutes. I think he can get you some points. He can get you points up in a hurry. So if injuries happen or whatever case may be, just don't be afraid to run with Nick Smith Jr.